This is a great poster, and what I had hoped I would be getting when I went to see The Kid Who Would Be King. But instead, I think that this poster is actually a better representation of the film. A charming family movie with a lot of character, literally a lot of characters here, as you can see, but at the same time, a bit blank. In fact, I'm surprised at how little writer-director Joe Cornish has evolved as a filmmaker over 8 frickin' years. I mean, it's pretty much the same movie as his breakout film, Attack the Block. Think about it. And this only occurred to me when I was writing up this review. An unlikely, diverse group of, because that's how long ago Attack the Block was, but we'll talk in just one second. But basically, between the two movies, it's an unlikely, diverse group of kids, like who you wouldn't expect to team up, but they do, to have a genre adventure in urban UK. The Kid Who Would Be King, a little less urban, obviously, but still that element is there. Now, Attack the Block is so good. It's excellent. How good is it? John Boyega basically got Star Wars off of the fumes of Attack the Block, even though it was years later. That's how good that movie was. And people really felt that John Boyega was going to go somewhere off of that movie. He didn't really. And just, I think because of the way not only Star Wars has evolved, but his character in the franchise has evolved, he still hasn't. But Attack the Block is still his signature movie and deserves to be so. It's very good. That movie's more cinematic, more inventive, and higher energy than The Kid Who Would Be King, which, conversely feels safer, pulling its punches, and ultimately more like the pilot movie for a British TV series than an outright film. A very good British TV series, mind you, but a TV series nonetheless. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, but I love TV series, Grace. It's the age of streaming. But when they spend money on those shows. And so again, here the problem is a lack of budget, but also pulling the punches. Not just in terms of the sequences and the shock and awe, right? Monetarily, but also, with the story. I think it could have done more. Instead of being turned up to an 11, I'd say this movie is somewhere like a 6.5, 7. But that said, the film is so chock full of good life lessons for kids and adults that I'm still going to recommend it. I mean, heck, being reminded of the chivalric code itself is alone worth the price of admission. They even repeated it twice, which I really appreciated. There's also a very nifty animated opening sequence, which actually doesn't do the movie any favors, because I was like, can we just stick with this, please? And they're like, nope, we got to switch over to the live action now. And I was like, nerds. But we switched to Andy Serkis's kid, Louis Serkis, who gives off some serious Michael J. Fox vibes, especially at the beginning of the film. Angus Imrie is also a comedic delight throughout as young Merlin. Patrick Stewart playing the older Merlin, but in the film for such a little amount of time, he doesn't really factor in. But, Angus Imrie is so good, you don't miss Patrick Stewart, in fact. Although I could have done without this movie's way of casting spells, which is basically right out of the Three Stooges. And I'm curious if anybody likes it, because to me, even though those movements allow you to do actual magic, they're so uncool, it's still hard to imagine yourself doing it. Like, usually you'd be like, I want to be Merlin, I want to be the wizard. And here you're like, well, maybe I'll be another character, right? Now, the rest of the cast is fine, except for Rebecca Ferguson. And this pains me to say it because I'm a big Rebecca Ferguson fan, but she's not a villain. And here, especially, it reminded me of how great Helena Bonham Carter can be. I think a lot of us have been like, Helena Bonham Carter is so one note, and she only, we've had enough of her, and she just kind of become a caricature of herself. But then you see this movie, and you're like, what do you know? We really needed Helena Bonham Carter here. And speaking of villains, the movie one place it spares no expense is creating Morgana's Undead Soldiers. Those were cool. Those are the best sequences in the film, when they literally crawl out of the earth, especially when they're on horseback. So well done. It really seemed like horses, coming up like a mountain terrain and everything. It was really good. And they did a really good job getting you excited for a sequence that never played out to the level that it started. I did appreciate seeing so much of the English countryside as well. We did a little more walking than I would have liked. Again, there was a really good setup, but the movie never really quite delivered on that setup. However, I was shocked that no kids die or are even really injured during the final siege of the movie, as they have like an hour of training and they're going up against Morgana's undead army of experienced evil soldiers. I mean, the whole movie was not convincing in that department. But it does play like a really good children's book, where, again, the most important element is the message, from the chivalric code to who Excalibur chooses and why. I thought that was really nice. I also really liked the modern context of how the world is so bitterly divided these days. Why you might need to be reminded of things like the chivalric code and the heyday of not just England with Arthur, but knights, of people being their best. Although, of course, I'm aware there are horrible stories from that era as well, but you get what it's about. And then also they had a lot of good stuff about the harsh realities and challenges facing broken families, and also the love that can get them through. So The Kid Who Would Be King is a top-notch matinee. I want to be clear about that. It's a top-notch matinee whose sword might not be too sharp, but whose heart is strong and true. So that's my review. I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. Don't give any spoilers, please, or if you want to talk about spoilers, mark them accordingly. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.